Greetings, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the special global broadcast of the UN Movie Society, marking the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. This day reminds us that no sustainable future is possible without justice for Indigenous peoples, justice for their lands, for their languages, and their cultures. Today, we are honored to bring you a conversation with Taratoa Stappard, the Maori writer-director of MΑRAMA, a Maori story of reclamation and retribution rooted in the colonial history of Aotearoa, New Zealand, that does not turn away from the pain of cultural violation and loss. As the film itself insists, we cannot walk into tomorrow without first reckoning with yesterday. Movies hold the unique power to carry these truths across borders. It is in that spirit that the UN Movie Society presents this film to you today. Welcome and enjoy. Taratoa Stappard, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
It's
for
such
having
an
me.
honor. And you've created an extraordinary film, MＡRAMA, that speaks to the UN values of supporting the rights and justice and dignity of Indigenous people. This took you 7 years to make, which is extraordinary, and what a gift this is to the world.
Thank you.
And tell us, Taratoa, what brought you to make this film? Tell us about your great-grandmother, her story, and what her inspiration was to you.
Oh, certainly. Well, to begin with, I was born in Aotearoa, New Zealand. My mother, as you say, is Māori. She had a Māori father and a Māori mother, but my father was English. He came to New Zealand, met my mother, they had me, and then we moved away. So from about the age of 2 or 3, we were moving around the world with my father's job. And so I didn't really have any experience, any lived experience, whether in Aotearoa, certainly not as Māori living in Aotearoa. But my mother sort of, she would tell me, and then later on when my sister was born, my sister and I, she would tell us stories of our tupuna, our ancestors. And there was one particular woman that was interesting to me. Her name was Rangiriri Stru. Rangiriri means literally, Rangi is sky and Riri is angry. So Angry Sky was her name. And she had an identical twin sister called Te Reorua. And the twins were born in 1880. And when they were 16, this is how the story goes. And my mother always says, never let the truth get in the way of a full good story. But I think essentially this story is true. But my mother might have added a few bits and pieces. But anyway, I do know that my great-grandmother had this identical twin sister, very beautiful young women. They were proud of their Māori culture. They enjoyed speaking the language and performing when they could, but they were being suppressed in school after school, told not to do that. And at about the age of 16, they were expelled from their third school. And their English father, he disowned them effectively. Said, you're on your own, do your own thing. And in, I think, what must have been, let's say, an act of relatively defiant sort of cultural rebellion, let's say, especially in 1896, the twins took on identical moko koai, the traditional Māori tattoo for women of mana, and made them very special and unique, I suppose. And they became popular guides to the nascent tourism industry in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And then fast forwarding until about 1910, I don't know the precise date, but my great-grandmother took a concert party of young Māori women, including my grandmother and my great-aunt, called Princess Rangiriri and her 9 Māori maidens. They went on a tour from New Zealand to Australia. They performed in San Francisco, and they went all the way to the UK, essentially to sing and dance and entertain those people who were still colonizing her people, the Māori people in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And that just struck me as what must that have been like for my great-grandmother. And it gave me the idea, really, I suppose. It gave me the first idea for perhaps this could be a story I could tell about a young Māori woman who is mysteriously summoned, all the way from New Zealand to Victorian England. And then what she finds out, ironically, on the other side of the world, about her own heritage. The Māori word is her whakapapa, That's her lineage, her heritage. What she finds out there, the horrific truth of her heritage, compels her to seek out and ultimately to destroy the man who has killed her family, her Māori family. So that was the essence of the story. And then it was about finding the timing and me learning, educating myself about the history of colonization of Aotearoa, which I was ignorant about, really. And I guess during that process of researching and finding out more and more about the story and the history of the colonization of Aotearoa, it became clear to me that actually, no, it's a horror story.
Exactly.
And it's what I came to describe as a Māori Gothic horror story. And I stand by that. You know, some people ask me, is it really a horror story? Is it horror, like horror? And I was like, well, I think it's horrific.
Yeah.
And the history of most Indigenous peoples' colonization is a
horrific.
horror story.
Exactly.
So that's how it's become
That's interesting.
a Māori Gothic horror.
Yes, it's so interesting how you originally didn't even intend to start
Not
it
really.
as a horror
Not really.
film.
I'm not a specialist in horror, but it definitely, as I was writing it, researching it, and writing it, it became clear that it's a horror story.
Yes, indeed, horror is inherent in this history of these colonized Indigenous people.
Yeah. It's not an exclusive experience to the Māori people, of course not. Indigenous peoples all around the world have been and still are being colonized.
Exactly.
And are still suffering, currently suffering from genocide, really, cultural,
it's horrible.
social genocide. So,
your adolescence was spent mostly in England.
yes.
Correct? And so you've spoken candidly about being separated from your Maori heritage.
Yeah.
And so this film opens with a declaration in both English and Maori that the story is grounded in the colonized history of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and contains disturbing scenes of the violation and desecration of Maori culture. This is remarkably transparent. And what was behind that incredible choice?
It was, as I remember correctly, it was the distributor's idea, and it was a very good idea. It was almost like maybe a form of a cultural trigger warning, perhaps, but I mean, it's more significant than that. But I think it was, once I'd heard that this was a possibility and that this was perhaps something we should consider doing, I was on board. I thought, yeah, that's a really good idea. And it was a way also, I mean, we did seed in a recurring motif that happens within the film, a saying that is in Te Reo Māori is ka mua, ka muri, which roughly translated means walking backwards into the future. Again, it's not a specific notion to the Māori culture. It's common amongst other Indigenous cultures, and it means nothing more really than being aware of your past in order to progress into your future, which kind of mirrored my experience of writing the script even and developing the project. But it seemed like putting that up on the screen, up front, as the beginning of the film, it just gave the audience a moment to settle, to read it, because it's up for 30 seconds. So they're going to read it and to consider, oh, okay, someone's told me this is a horror film, but maybe I'm going to watch something that's a bit more than a horror film, the type of horror film that I'm thinking. Because, yeah, like I said, it's a Māori Gothic horror, but I feel like it's also been described to me by some audience members, which I really liked, as an emotional horror.
Mary Stevens. Forgive me. Nathaniel Cole. Welcome to Hawksor Manor.
Most films about the Indigenous peoples are set on the colonized land. What's interesting about your film is you chose to set it in England, in Victorian Yorkshire.
So my decision to set the film outside of Aotearoa was for two reasons, really. One, because my experience growing up has been mostly in England, but also two, because I had never seen really a film about, a colonized Maori character that didn't take place in Aotearoa. And I wanted to speak to the fact that historically, the moment Maori were meeting and coming into first contact with colonizers, they would get back on those boats and travel out. There's plenty of records of Maori. Yeah. Maori met Queen Victoria and her family in the 1840s or 50s, I think. But before that even, they were getting on the whaling boats, as the main male character says. I hired Maori seamen to be on my boats, and that's fact. They did. They were great at sea, and they were great at traveling, and they were great sailors. And I hadn't seen many of those stories, so I was keen to tell that story.
And this displacement was so important.
Yeah, yes, and it was important to put my character through that displacement.
And
exactly.
73 days of travel for her.
Well,
right?
I think that was a typical voyage.
That's
in those
incredible.
days. It took between 60 and 80 days to get from New Zealand to England. It takes 24 hours now, but it's still a long time. But 80 days, geez, it's a long time at sea.
So I understand the production took a logistical pivot at some point where you had intended to shoot it in one location, I believe in England.
Yes.
And then later on decided to shoot it in New Zealand, in the North Island and the South Island.
That was entirely down to the fact that the funding that we needed to shoot in England didn't come through. We didn't get that kind of support, but we did get fantastic funding support from the New Zealand Film Commission and other funding bodies in New Zealand. So it just became a matter of, well, in that case, we will shoot in New Zealand. And I'm really glad we did, actually. We didn't find a big Gothic mansion house in New Zealand because they don't exist. But that's okay.
So you built one.
Exactly. So,
and you built it.
Spoiler alert, it all takes place on a set, but hopefully it feels real. And the exterior shots, we found spaces in New Zealand's an amazing location for shooting anyway. So it wasn't hard to find some seaside, some seascape and cliffs that felt like, that could be Yorkshire. That happened to be in the South Island, but the rest, was in a studio. But
beautifully done, beautifully shot.
Beautifully production design by Nick Williams, shot by Jin Lone, costume by Sarah Voon.
Extraordinary. The whole cinematography, it's a work of art as well. On top of
it's
it being
a massive team effort for sure.
At the heart of the film, you have the extraordinary actress Ariane Osborne, who plays the tripart role of Mary, MΑΡΑMA, and also her twin sister.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Sorry.
I'll just be generic.
No.
It's okay.
But yes, she does. She plays three roles.
She basically plays three souls in one body.
That's right.
And it's incredible how she was able to shift between the three. She was on set for the whole time, 23 out of the 24 days of shooting.
Exactly.
And she basically, her soul was felt throughout her performance.
Right.
And
she'll be very glad to hear that, I think.
Tell us, how did you discover her? What was it about her audition that made you realize this woman is Marana?
Yes, I didn't discover her. We had a terrific Wahine Māori, a Maori woman, as casting director based in Auckland. So she was connected and knew a lot of different Maori actors, female actors. Between the age of 20 and 25, I think the casting call was. And there are a lot of great female actors, Maori specifically actors, because we needed that part to be Maori, had to be.
Exactly.
But I was still in the UK. I was receiving tapes, of auditions. And something about her tape was just extraordinary. And I think, thinking back on it and watching it again many times, the first time I saw her, out of all the tapes that I was watching, there was something about her that was extraordinarily confidence in her stillness, in her ability to be still. And not blank, but still. But still, you could tell there was a lot happening, but she was physically very, very still. And that appealed to me. It was obviously fantastic that she's such a striking-looking woman as well, but beyond that, she had this physicality and stillness and self-confidence that I think comes from her being... she's an elite athlete and a dancer. She played rugby for the country.
Really?
Until the age of 15, yeah.
The party scene,
yes,
which Ariana plays, that is described often as the pivotal moment of display of colonization, racism, and cultural appropriation. And tell us, how is it to put together the scene and that performance, her haka performance in that party scene
Yeah.
blew my mind. And tell us about
Well,
that process.
the party scene itself was kind of the big scene in terms of production. It was the one I was most nervous about. It was the one everyone was most nervous about because we had the most extras. There were a lot of costumes involved. And there was a lot of pressure about getting that right. But then to top it all off, I knew that at the end of this sequence of shooting, we were going to see the haka. And I wasn't involved in the haka at all. It's not for me to tell a wahine Māori, a young Māori woman, how to do the haka. So she choreographed and practiced and rehearsed that haka with the fabulous Māori consultant, Ngahuia Kopa, and they worked on that together. So the first time I saw that performed, I explained to Ariana, we were all very clear, it's going to be a one shot, there's not going to be any movement, here's your edges, when you're ready, go for it. And I made sure that she was looking at all that cast. They were all there watching her. She wasn't just looking at a crew and a camera. Everyone was there watching her, pressuring her. And she just delivered this incredible, incredible first take. I was crying. I had no notes. I said, that's great.
It was
Should we wrap?
riveting.
And she was like, hold on a second. She looked over at her consultant, Ngahuia, who looked at her and was just like, come over here. So she went over to her. They put their heads together for about 5 seconds. Came back again. She went, one more, please. I was like, am I changing anything? Do I need? No, I'm ready to go. Let's go. So we reset. Bang! Smashed the glass. Did the haka again. And for some, I didn't know what it was, but it was even better. The second take was perfect and even better. We wrapped. I had obviously no notes. I think Ariana went for a little lie down. She was exhausted. And I had to ask. And I was like, what did you tell her? What did you say? She was, I just reminded her to weaponize her dress. And she was like, look at the rushes. And of course I did many times. I looked at take 1 and take 2. And the difference is, they're both fantastic takes, but in the second one, she grabs her dress and she slaps her thighs with it, and uses it like a club. She weaponizes her dress. And when I showed that to my mother, she was able to remember and recall from when she was a young girl on marae and meetings. Her point was, when I was a young girl, I used to see the men, they often had the props, not props, but they would be able to hold the staff or the club. The women weren't encouraged to hold anything, or they weren't allowed to. If they even spoke on the marae, they would just stand up and speak. And some of the older women, what they would do is grab a handful of the reeds in their piu-piu, the traditional Māori skirts, and slap their thighs with it to make their point. So Ngahuia and Ariana they devised this moment. So anyway, Ngahuia's note to remember to weaponize the dress was a perfect note, but not something I could. The point is, that's for experts to impart that kind of direction. And it was for me just to go, can it be improved? Yeah, she needs to weaponize the dress. Bang, she did, and it was even better. Like, I would never have known to say that, but that's the joy of working with real experts in their fields.
I understand you brought in language experts and cultural
Well, that was
experts.
Ngahuia actually as well. So she was able to advise on the accent, on the pronunciation, on the delivery, as well as choreographing things like the haka. Yeah.
And during production, I understand that there were cultural protocols, for example, daily prayer and blessings, water cleansing, and you even had a Maori seer present throughout the production. A
matakite seer. No, I think that's more to do with the fact that I was able to, during my research and writing and rewriting of the script, I was able to spend some time chatting with.
I see.
I just wanted to make sure these things I'm making up, are they ponotika is the word. Are they true? Are they authentic? Do they feel real? And she just said, yeah. She was able to reassure me or tell me otherwise. And as I developed the script, I worked with many, many different experts, all of them Māori, and actually thinking back on it, all of them wahine, all of them women. And I think that made the script what it is, and made the film what it is. Their support and their guidance and their steer made it more specific. And we kept the main aim was to tell the story from this young Māori woman's point of view, to try and stay with her story. And I hope we've achieved that.
Yes, and you've told the truth.
I hope so.
And we are broadcasting this on August 9th, UN International Day of the World's Indigenous People. You have mentioned, I hope young Maori see themselves in this film, see their own experiences, their strength, and feel proud of who they are. In addition, this film has resonated with the Indigenous far beyond Aotearoa. in Canada, in USA, in the Pacific, in Australia. You should be very proud of that.
Thank you, thank you. And I met some fantastic Sami filmmakers, in fact, in Toronto, and they
Lovely.
invited me to a great festival in Tromsø, in Norway. So yes, even Sami audiences. That was a good screening. I got some good questions from the audience.
Lovely.
So it's been very affirming watching it find a space with different Indigenous audiences. Yeah.
Taratoa, thank you so much
Thank you.
for creating this extraordinary film. The film is as courageous as it is beautiful.
Thank you.
And you really, really had courage to look back onto your family history, tell the truth and dark truths. And you've given the world a gift of understanding of this important history.
Thank you.
And at the United Nations, we are committed to fighting for the rights and justice for the Indigenous people, justice for their culture, justice for their language, and justice for their land. And every slide of MΑRAMA carries this truth.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for saying that. It's been a real pleasure to talk, and it's an honor to talk with you as a representative of the United Nations. You're doing important work for Indigenous people all around the world. So I hope people, when they come to find MΑRAMA, I hope they enjoy it, and I hope they find a way into the story that maybe even reflects their histories as well. Mauri ora.
Maori ora.